I'm going to open today's meeting of the governing body. A couple of reminders, councillors. Some are online and some are not enough of them are here, but wherever they are. This is the last council meeting that you can attend online. From now on, you've got to show up. The meeting is being live webcast. A camera will go around the room showing that at present we have Councillors Hills, Henderson, Dalton, Baker, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Leone, Ferry, Newman, Stewart, Williamson, Fletcher. And online, at this stage I have Councillor Turner and Sayers. So the other one, this being live webcast today, and we have electronic attendance protocols, and I'd ask you to observe which you should be in a secure place during the meeting if you're not present here, and you should not be driving while connected to the meeting. Please be present and ensure your phone is turned off, at the very least on silent. And I do have some apologies for lateness, Councillor Fooley and Councillor Filippina, and for early departure at 3 p.m, Councillor Dalton. Good luck with that.
Your Worship.
Are there any more apologies?
I also registered that I would need to leave by 3 o'clock. Thank you.
All right, well, I'll watch you two. Not too much talking then. Thank you. Councillor Watson has joined us, and yeah, I'm sure we'd all like to leave during hours of daylight today, so remember that, please. So, I'm going to move that we accept the apologies, and it will be seconded by Councillor Henderson. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, carried. Te whakapuaki I te whaipanga. None of you knew what that meant, but I was asking you for declarations of interest. None, so we'll move on to te whaka ina amiki, confirmation of minutes. Please, a mover and a seconder for that, please. Thank you. Councillor Dalton, Councillor Baker, all those in favour, please say aye. No, carried. Thank you very much. There is no public input. We did have a request from the Howick local board, but under Standing Order 6.2.3b, with the decline as there has been consultation process attached to this matter. I think it's about the fact that Howick want to grow from a netball team to a cricket team. Extraordinary items, none are known. Speaking notes, we are going to move to item 8 before item 7. It's due to Mr. Carruthers is booked to attend another meeting, so I'm prepared to accept the recommendations from the Arts, Sports, Social and Community Political Working Group. The Deputy Mayor has led a working group to figure out how we deal with all these outfits who are all here today, so we've moved this item up on the agenda. I have to say I think there is room for improvement with the current situation, which we are told by law, where we are told by law what outfits we have to fund, but have very little ability to influence what they do. There's been a string of reports all suggesting exactly the same thing. There's been a string of governments who've done nothing about it and a string of councils who've done nothing about it. So this is a good step forward. As the Chair's recommendation to tidy up the recommendations a bit to make it clear that there are recommendations in paragraph 50 as set out in paragraph 50, and some of the notes that said paragraph 0. And unfortunately for everybody, I actually read them and found that out. So, Deputy Mayor, would you like to speak to this? We have staff and Alistair Carruthers here today. The gentleman with the has just taken a seat next to our thing. We have also present in the room the chairperson of Tātaki as well. Deputy Mayor, will you move this?
I'd be happy to move, Your Worship, and I think we have a seconder from the political working group.
Henderson's in a seconding mood today. Okay. Deputy Mayor, prepared to introduce this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our cultural institutions are magnificent assets for our city, enhancing our social, artistic and cultural fabric, and ones I know we are all proud of. They are all in the room today, or pretty much all of them, and I want to acknowledge each and every one of them and the role they play, as well as acknowledging the amount of work they have put in alongside the political working group to get us to this place. I also want to acknowledge Nick and Vicky from Tātaki. I don't think Nick's here, but Vicky, you are, thank you. And the role that they have played too. Again, this work stream by the political working group has added to your own workload, but you've taken on the challenge and have assisted in the process and the negotiations. So thank you, and good to see you here too. And I acknowledge that's on top of, saving a lot of money for our city and losing staff. You've still taken on that extra workload, so thank you. Today's recommendations are not about making cuts to the sector. They are about delivering better outcomes for our cultural institutions, for Auckland and for ratepayers. It's been a very long journey. We've had a number of external reviews costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, but never actually done anything about it. And today we can. The recommendations are split into two parts. Part one is focused on getting on with the improvements that can be made now by us and that are focused on better outcomes across the sector. We want our organisations to form an alliance to ensure shared outcomes and efficiencies in the likes of promotion, shared advertising and programming, telling a cohesive Auckland story, integrated ticketing. This sort of thing happens in many cities around the world and should happen here. And whilst these improvements are important, the political working group strongly believes there's a need to fix the existing law around some of our institutions. Some of that law is, of course, many, many years old and does need to be relooked at. To that end, while the Track 1 improvements are progressed, staff should also concurrently look at the second work stream and see what that would entail. Change can be challenging, but with the right people, change can happen with everyone feeling good about it. And that's what's really happened today. But one of those key people in that change is Alistair Carruthers. Alistair is a known lover and supporter of arts and culture. And it's no coincidence that Alistair sits on the boards of Auckland War Memorial Museum, MOTAT, Arafa, and Tātaki Auckland Unlimited. It's a deliberate effort on our part to foster better collaboration. So I'd now like to hand over to Alistair to tell us more about the work that he's been doing to date and the benefits of the recommendations for both us and the organisations. Alistair.
Inga mana, e te rangatira, ko Alistair Carruthers, toko ingoa. I'm really very pleased to be here. You say I'm overemployed in these matters, and Mayor, I'm very grateful to be in these different boards because it has given me and will give me a unique perspective on how we can pursue what I think is actually another step in the integration of our great city. I'm not going to talk about the legislation, which is obviously all designed at a time where we're not a united body. What I want to talk about is the willingness of the institutions to just get on with some really good things and to try to create more value for visitors, for citizens, and for ratepayers. Great cities are defined by the knowledge holders of institutions that share knowledge freely with members of the public and visitors alike. Really outstanding cities have networks of institutions to do that in a better way. If I look at Washington, this is a word that has been tossed around a bit at different times with the political working group. The defining brand for Washington for culture is the Smithsonian Institutes. There are over a dozen museums and galleries that all network and share marketing resources, shared services, and even ticketing to create a cohesive network of knowledge. And what happens as a result is that the city is a net attractor of visitors because of culture. Now, I think we actually have that big opportunity here, right in front of us right now. I see three examples of how we might, as institutions, work better together. One is to create a cohesive master brand for culture. Every institution still has its identity and its specialisation. But if we were to think about the treasures of Tāmaki or a Smithsonian-type brand, I think that will create a really interesting new measure for us to be able to hold ourselves to account when we attract visitors. I think at an operational level, I see so many different ways in which boards are measuring success or failure in these organisations, and I can see an opportunity for us to simplify and create common KPIs across all of the institutions. A really good example of that would be net cost to serve, which is something that at Tātaki we've been looking at through the institutions that we help to manage. But another really interesting thing to look at would be KPIs where we're not necessarily doing well. I happen to know that every institution in the last 12 months has struggled to meet its education targets with learning outside the classroom and getting kids into their environments. Now, there's got to be a reason for that. I think it's not a failure of each institution. I think there's a transport problem. There's actually a resourcing problem, and there's probably a communication problem with teachers about what we can do to support the curriculum. If we share data together around that sort of thing, then we actually have got an opportunity as a group to make changes more easily. The other example is, of course, shared services, and this is something, again, at Tātaki we've been really pleased to provide to the Maritime Museum, the Zoo, the Art Gallery, and I think there are opportunities for greater efficiency and actually better value if we look at those things as well. Those are just examples of what might be possible. I'm really pleased that my colleagues from the institutions are here. I think there is a lot of history in all of this, but all the reports, and I really commend you, Chris, on this one, have said the same thing. We've just got to get on with it now. And I think the opportunity is real because you've got a very collaborative group of leaders and excellent leaders of these institutions who also agree that it's time.
Sorry, I think you've done a really good job explaining the recommendations, Deputy Mayor. The report includes staff advice that we recommend that the governing body endorse them in full. And if I can just speak slightly candidly, this work and the recommendations are a relief. We've heard the 10 years worth of consultants' reports that have gone on without anything, and this is a step in the right direction. So it's a credit to the Mayor for making this a priority, and then your leadership and the political working group for actually getting something done, and we're excited to get on with the work.
Righto, thanks for that. Have any questions? I think it's been fairly well telegraphed, this. Councillor Hills, please.
Kia ora, Mayor. Just my main question and concern, just because most of this was done on the proviso and expectations of Tātaki existing in its current form and at least being independent over the organisations, and if there is change to bring the even more independent organisations within our current slightly independent organisations, what does that future look like? Because it does feel like we've been on a process and then it's changed. It could change with the CCO review through the annual plan, etc. So I don't know who would like to answer that, but
yeah, I can say the report does address that and notes that these recommendations were made before the reforms were announced. So there is that to take in mind, but the fundamental recommendations are collaboration and alignment. So regardless of where Tātaki, whether it sits and how it operates, collaboration I think can still happen. The only other thing to note is Alistair here has been quite instrumental in and the rest of the board in getting this to a certain point. So it's just to acknowledge that and factor that into future considerations.
But by supporting this, we're still supporting, because I was on the working group, but we're supporting it moving forward, but we're not necessarily supporting anything being locked in until there's more certainty around what structures are existing after next year.
Yeah, I think the intention is to factor this into that future work. Okay. So that is a consideration. But this work can start and can get on. We can get on with it. It is largely led by the organisations. Yeah.
And the other question, potentially more for the Mayor, maybe. Or okay, I guess I can say it in my speaking turn, or maybe to Deputy Mayor. You know, my big concern throughout this process was, you know, obviously it's great to have more collaboration. I agree with all the direction, but my one concern is that this does lead a future, if we get to the legislation change and there's more ability to reduce those budgets potentially, that it could lead a future council to dramatically cut arts in this city. Are we looking for how we protect that through this process? Because that's what people will look back and say if that type of thing did happen.
Look, there's a clear directive from the political working group that this work is not about making cuts. It's also not about increasing funding. It's about getting better outcomes for the money that's already spent, which Alice has sort of outlined just a few examples, and there's plenty more. But that will all be factored into the future work.
Okay, thanks for that. Gentlemen, if you want to step back a bit in case there's any debate here, I'll take any comments that councillors may or may not wish to have on us, but it has been well telegraphed and we have been kept well informed by the Deputy Mayor on her journey through this process, and it enjoys considerable support around the table, in my opinion, I'm hoping. Nobody wants to put
Your Worship, I would just like to, I think it's important because I didn't do this by myself. I want to thank my councillor colleagues who sat on the political working group. From Hokura, there was Honey Renata, there were councillors Henderson, Leone, Hills and Bartley. So I think it's important to acknowledge them. And I think also I want to acknowledge Chris. Chris has worked on this for 10 years, 12 years. And finally, I think, Chris, you can tick this off on your work stream, almost. It's been going for many, many years, and the political working group that you've supported has been going for over a year. So I just want to acknowledge you. This has been a big project for you for many, many years. And all those papers, all those reports, all those hundreds of thousands of dollars, and finally we're doing something. So thanks, Chris. And I just would endorse it to all people to support. Thank you. It's a very big day for us, Mayor. It's good. It's good for
Councillor
arts and
Fletcher,
culture.
thank you very much. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to commend this to the Chamber, because for those of you who have been sitting around this table for a long time, you will know that we have been asking for this. At the formation of the Auckland Council in 2010, it was very clear that we didn't have a sense of strategic purpose or direction in the outcomes that we were seeking to achieve. But I want to give comfort also to say that this is about good stewardship. This isn't about leaving any institution orphaned. This is about having a much more coherent strategy moving into the future. And it's something, you know, from my own perspective, been asking for a very long time. So I welcome this work and congratulate all of those who brought it today together.
Okay, thank you very much for that. In that case, I shall put the motion to endorse the recommendations and request that staff carry out the necessary and do it as per paragraph 50. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll report that. And thank you for your attendance, various organisations who have weathered the storm. And thank you for the work put in place by all of them. We will now numerically revert to number 7 and bring forward